Joe talks about Joe. And now, your host, Joe Slepsky.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Joe on Joe. It's me, your host, Joe Slepsky, and it's the summer of 1988. You're hanging out. A mailman shows up, and he delivers the G.I. Joe magazine for summer of 1988 in your hands. That's right, everyone. It's another episode of Joe and Joe Illustrated, and we're digging into the summer 88 G.I. Joe magazine. For you new listeners, Joe on Joe is a watch-along podcast. Watch along, read along, listen along, where I've covered all of the episodes of the show, all of the issues of the comic book, and ideally you put me in your ears, and then you read or you watch, and you hear our commentary as we go along. That's kind of the point of the show, and I love it, and I love that you're here for it. All you returning listeners, you're the best. Thanks for sticking around. We have one more issue of the G.I. Joe magazine that's coming. That'll be next week. And then there's a couple cleanup issues, and then we're going to launch into our big winter fiesta that I will tease you a little bit each week, but it's very British and it's very exciting. So get ready for that. Big shout out to friend of the show and host of Cyclops is Waiting for Me, friend John Carl, who asked me to moderate a panel last week at the Los Angeles Comic-Con all about making podcasts. Panel was a raging success. Thank you all. Thank you everyone who participated. Thank you everyone who came to the show, to the panel. Just a big shout out to some new friends, some new podcast friends. These are some podcasts that they were on the panel. They're fantastic. They're super successful, and you should give them listens. If you're not listening to 30 Morbid Minutes, What's Good Games, Geekscape, and Geeks Who Like Sports, if you're not listening to those podcasts, you should. Shout out to our new friends over there. And of course, John and Rod run Cyclops is Waiting for Me, which is an amazing X-Men podcast. They did a rewatch of the original X-Men cartoon, and now they're focusing on the X-Men 97 stuff, and just a good listen, great dudes, and that was a really fun crew. So we had a lot of fun over the weekend. Best news from the weekend, G.I. Joe related, is our friend Jeremiah. He said he walked into the show, and the very first thing he saw was like a young kid, maybe 17, maybe 18 years old, walking away from a dealer table with a stack, like a foot tall stack of G.I. Joe comic books. That was uplifting news. We love to see it. I did see a ton of dealers carrying G.I. Joe comics, and that is a big sign. For a good number of years, they just wouldn't have a lot of G.I. Joe books with them. And I don't need any, but I always make a point of checking them out just in case you see what they got. And you never know, if there's a random, some random cover or something you want. And I saw a lot of G.I. Joes in the back issues. There weren't a ton of, for Comic-Con, there were not a ton of comic book dealers, which it bums me out when I say that. But of the ones that were there were a lot of quality ones. And in those dealers, I did see a lot of Joe comic books. So that's really, really good. I saw a lot of G.I. Joe classifieds on sale, and this, like the current stuff, some literally recent re-releases as of a couple weeks ago, but also some stuff from the last couple years. Not a ton of vintage Joe stuff. Of course, I did meet and see, and I've met him before, and his name's blanking on me, but he runs the Temecula, California G.I. Joe show. So if you're listening to this, I know you gave me your card, and I wasn't prepared to make this reference now, so I don't have it in front of me, but he was a super great dude, and I bought a couple Joes off him. So make sure you look out, Google Temecula G.I. Joe show, and go check their show out. It's I've heard it's really great. I've actually never made it. I want to try to make it this year. I keep getting, it's about 2-hour drive for me, and I keep getting reasons not to go. So this year, maybe December I'll hit it, but I think it's coming up in December. And I've always heard it's a really, really great show. I think, you know what they did? They teased me what the show exclusive is going to be, but I'm not going to tell you because it sounded really great. So Google Temecula G.I. Joe show, you'll find it, and go check them out. But I finally replaced my crankcase, because I had an Ostracker, absolutely one of my favorite toys, 100%. And crankcase always drove it, so I played a lot of crankcase. But you know, when I moved my collection a couple decades ago, the drivers went with their cars. I couldn't split them up, so I needed to replace my crankcase. So I replaced the crankcase this week. He is now driving Bumblebee, which, for the record, Hasbro, I wish you would have redone crankcase with Bumblebee. Maybe it was a mold issue because you already had the new, like, you have the stalker mold going, so. You know, maybe that's the case, but crankcase belongs to the Ostracker. So now he is in my Bumblebee. He is chilling. I also got a 91 Snake Eyes. He's like the blue one with, I call it like the dog handler mask. Maybe it's a hockey mask or whatever, but it's that blue one. So I got him fully replete with all his gear, and I got all that from the Temecula Joe table. That was great. There was one other dealer with some sealed, I think they were sealed, but boxed older vehicles. I think he had like did he not a Snowcat? I think he had a polar bear, and I think he maybe had did he have a Mobat? I don't know. So one of the mid 80s vehicles, not the later run. And but they were like locked away on a shelf. I did not see a ton of figures, so that's all right. So, listeners, if you are online right now, which chances are, since this is a podcast and the podcast is delivered over the internet, that means you are somehow connected to the internet. Please give us the show a rate and review on whatever podcast catcher you are on. All the reviews help. You can also drop me a line at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Joe and Joe Pod. Send me an email to joeandjoepod@gmail.com. If you aren't so inclined and want to help support the show, you can go to patreon.com/joeandjoepod and sign up to give a little monthly donation to help keep the wheels spinning here at Joe on Joe Central. The other thing you can do is you can give a big shout out to our sponsors, the Movies in a Meal podcast. Now, this weekend, I did see Joker 2, but I actually talk about that on one of our special program that we're going to be dealing with that you're going to be hearing in like a month or two. And so, but that's a later episode, but I don't want to, I don't want to go over the same land. So I'll just say that I watched today, I watched a scary British Santa Claus horror movie called Do Not Open Till Christmas. And it was on Shudder. It was a slasher, and it lived up to its name, and it was fun. And it is a movie that I very much doubt our friends over at the Movies in a Meal podcast have reviewed. But Ben, if you're listening, give it a look. I believe it's called Wait Until Christmas or Do Not Open Till Christmas. And it's a British slasher from, I think, 1984. And it was insane, and the plot made no sense. And when they revealed the killer, I didn't understand who he was in relation to the rest of the characters in the movie. And this is after I watched that movie for an hour and a half. So, awesome. Well, this week, we are getting into the summer, 1988 summer J. Joe magazine. Now, there is a mystery around the cover of this, and I've Googled it. Maybe it's been solved somewhere that I have not found, but no one knows who drew the cover, and also then the interior poster for G.I. Joe 88 summer. So if anyone knows, speak up. It is a very cool, I love it. It's very clean. It is very DC 1980s, early 80s comic book. Like, it could be like Keith Pollard, or you know what? If someone told me a young Bruce Timm drew this, I wouldn't be surprised. It's super clean. You can see, you can Google it. I know on yojo.com they have the full poster. And certainly, we're reading this off of 3djoes.com. They have the PDF of the full poster and the whole magazine, so you can read along. But it's a great poster. It features all the like 87, 88 dudes. They're in a fight over a bridge. Raptors flying overhead. Speaking of Raptor, my classified Raptor ship. That's awesome. It's a good looking poster, and it's super clean in a very 80s style artwork. And I'm looking for some telltale signs to kind of tip me off as to who might have drawn it. I can't place it, but it definitely feels real, like it would really be at home in DC in the early to mid 80s. So I don't know. If anyone does know, reach out. Let me know. Literally, the posts I found online were that it was a mystery. And if it was solved, then I missed those other posts. Speaking of that, Corrections Corner. Last week, I said it was Dusty on the cover. Not Dusty. It was not Dusty in Sandstorm. It was Spearhead and Max. And thank you to Dave Amiot, who is my corrections guru, for catching that. It was not Dusty. And that gets into the realm of I don't know this era as well as I do the earlier eras. I feel like I wouldn't have made that mistake where they've been dudes that I had. I think I have a Spearhead and Max. I think I have a Spearhead. I don't know if I have a Max in my collection. And I don't know that I have that version of Dusty either. But no, it was Spearhead and Max. So I apologize for leading you astray, listeners. So, first page, we get an advertisement for Short Circuit 2. I loved Short Circuit. Short Circuit 2, not as much. There's a reason we never saw Short Circuit 3. Let's just put it that way. But it was heading your way this summer to a theater near you. And they do spell it theatra, which is interesting. Because, it's the same number of letters, ER and RE, but they're using the, more, I guess, Anglophile version of it. Theater. Which really classes up the movie Short Circuit 2 way too much, if you ask me. We've got contents issues. We've got more surfer stuff. I feel like we get a lot of aquatic-based sports adventures. The Joes and the Cobra are in a space race. There's an article about cowboys. We get more Olympic coverage. Well, 88. Yeah, 88 would have been an Olympic year. Totally. Now, this month's, what do they call it? The 10 Hut is Repeater. Well, I know there's a lot of Repeater fans out there. He says, all right, summer's here, school's out, the weather's great, and you're holding the latest great issue of G.I. Joe the magazine. The Joe team keeps working and training all summer, of course, but we do take time off to lie back and read the mag. There are some great stories in this issue, starting with Space Chase about our latest battle with Cobra. This time we fight the snakes in outer space, which I feel like, shouldn't that have worked with one of the earlier space covers? Anyway, then you can read all about modern day cowboys. In Action tells you how gymnastics makes you a better athlete. You can go on an adventure with a river raft guide. And don't forget On Target with special messages from General Hawk about the latest Joe mission. And then we have some Cobra. So he says, have a great summer, Joe team. Relax, enjoy the great weather, and play safe. Yo, Joe, signed Repeater. Repeater was definitely a cool figure. I like Repeater from that era. I like Hit and Run. Shockwave is an all-timer, like for real. Shockwave absolutely would have been in line. I wonder, did they put out Shockwave to keep the copyright for the Transformer Shockwave? Does anyone know the answer to that? We get a Chips Ahoy commercial. And we get a mail call. We've got letters from Marietta, Georgia by Ryan Ricks, Austin Sohn from Laurinburg, North Carolina, Kelvin Nichols from Mustachio, Mississippi. No, what does that say? Montachi, Mississippi. I like to think though that he lives in Mustachio, Mississippi. Josh Taylor out of Chicago, Illinois. Hey Josh, what's up, baby? What part of town? Claire Morey out of Gaylord, Michigan. Philip Lander out of Los Angeles, California. Philip, are you still out here? Are you still in Los Angeles? Can we meet up? Talk some Joe. And Jesse Sutterfield from Queen City, Texas. And Jason. No, he says Jesse. Jason Sutterfield of Queen City, Texas. He got into the holiday spirit by covering his tree with all of his G.I. Joe team figures. Yo, Joe, that's what I'm talking about. Listen, you dudes with a 3D printer and a business-like initiative, print out Christmas hooks that have pegs for the G.I. Joe backpacks. You then put your G.I. Joes in the Christmas peg and hang them off the Christmas hooks. This is a no-brainer. Someone with a 3D printer, make this happen. I don't know who it is out there that has it, but I know you're out there. You guys are selling G.I. Joe stuff all the time. Make G.I. Joe backpack hooks. Please do. And just send me free ones. You take the idea. I don't care. Just send me free ones. We've also got a letter from, It says, "Dear G.I. Joe magazine readers, because G.I. Joe's out in the field, we can't answer each of your letters personally, but they want to hear from you, so they give you the letter, the address. We've got a Snake Eyes, a kind of a cool Snake Eyes from Matt Erlin from Homewood, Illinois. I know Homewood. I grew up near there. Not terribly near, but not terribly far. And Troy Hendrick from San Bernardino, California, gave us a Jinx. That same great advertisement for the Transformers Pretenders toys. I talked about that last week. That's a good looking ad, man. I don't know about the toys, but that's a good looking ad. We got Archie's promoting a fruit slush mush, and this is the fruit slushies. So looks like it's like what do you call those? Italian ices. That's what it looks like. So on target. So 88 was a presidential year. So it says, "Dear Mr. President, it's an election year, and that means it's time for all Americans to have a say about our future." Very timely, just saying. We've got Michael Dukakis, Jesse Jackson, Vice President George Bush. So it talks a little bit about each of them. And, they're running a contest. So they want you to, send to the Joe magazine one question you'd most like to ask the new presidential candidates. Could be about anything, the environment, Soviet Union, etc., whatever's on your mind. We'll count up all the entries and choose the 5 most popular questions to ask the presidential nominees of both parties. What? They will appear in our winter 1988 issue. Spoiler alert, there will be no winter 1988 issue. There's only a fall. Hold on. There is only a fall issue. I'm just going to real quick double check that. Yeah, there's no winter 1988 issue. So it turns out we're never going to find out the answer to these hot political questions, these hot political potatoes. That's exciting. Speaking of voting, please get out and vote. I do recall that Governor Michael Dukakis lost because he had the temerity to look foolish sitting in a tank. And boy, what a different time it was. That simply sitting in a tank looking foolish would disqualify you from being the president. We are far removed from that. Anyway, it's in the cards. We talk about baseball cards, some Red Sox, Yankees. We talk about basically card collecting, man. Ace slugger Mark McGwire, last year his rookie card was worth 9 cents. Now after his 49 homers last year, it is worth $20. So Mark McGwire was hitting 49 homers in 1987. Do we think that's when he first started juicing? The juice era went another 8 years. So was that his first year juicing? Interesting. Wait, last year was rookie card, so that would have been his second year. No, he wasn't juicing then, I don't think. Well, he may have been. Who knows? But I think he was still skinny in his second year. That's crazy. A rookie Dwight Gooden, he wasn't juicing, he was doing something else, is worth $60, and a rookie Roger Clemens is $80, and a rookie Kirby Puckett, I love Kirby Puckett, $66. Article written by David Azevedo. Oh man, we talk about Summers movies. Big Top Pee-wee. I love Pee-wee Herman. Rest in peace, Pee-wee. Fabulous. Big Top's not great. It's certainly not as good as Pee-wee's Big Adventure, but there's some fun stuff in Big Top Pee-wee. But it's definitely not great. I could see how that kind of put a stop to that run, and then later on he had some other issues. But I love Pee-wee Herman. I thought he was great. And then they talk about the movie Big with Tom Hanks. So the movie Big is about to hit theaters. And in Books for the Beach, they're promoting the story of Jackie Robinson, the bravest man in baseball. Here's a spooky book called Who Knew There'd Be Ghosts by Bill Britton. Journey into a Black Hole by Franklin Branley. And this is is that a fiction or is that, I don't know. I don't know if that's fiction or if that's like nonfiction, like what would actually happen if you went in there. Interesting. In our On Target section, we got General Hawk. This is funny. So he says, what you see below was captured during a raid at Cobra headquarters last month. Those snakes were trying to undermine the morale of the Joe team and all its fans by publishing Cobra magazine. By publishing nice stories about their evil organization, they hope to prove they were just regular guys. Well, we know better, don't we? Remember, always be alert for Cobra Evil plots, signed Hawk. And they have a mock-up of, instead of G.I. Joe magazine, what Cobra magazine would be. It says, Vipers are people too. The subheads are, Cobra Commander, what a guy. Kids speak, we like Cobra too. A visit to Snake Farm. Best villains of the movies. And Cobra saves the day. And inside, a groovy poster of your favorite Cobra buddies. And it's Cobra Commander in his spacesuit, handing an apple to a young boy. This is the greatest thing they've ever done in this G.I. Joe magazine. More of this. You remember how the last few weeks I've been saying that it isn't like super G.I. Joe centric? This is what I'm talking about. Had they done more stuff like this, like in universe, telling you how to avoid Cobra hijinks with actual mock-ups of Cobra magazines, 100% this is great. I salute this. Good job, whoever put this together. I salute you. It actually says illustration by Brad Heyman. Brad Heyman. I wonder if it's not terribly far from the cover. And I mean that. Let me see what is Brad the one who did the cover? It's not terribly different. And I'm talking about like Cobra Commander's, the look of his uni. Hard to tell. I can't really say definitively, but it's not terribly different. It's really great though. Salute that one. We got a 2-page spread of men's gymnastics. Mitch Gaylord featured. Man, he was huge. Remember he did the he did a gymnastics movie, American Eagle. I think Iron Eagle was not Mitch Gaylord. It was Iron Eagle was the one about the plane, but I feel it was called like American something. And then fairly positive Mitch Gaylord was the other Flying Grayson when they made Batman and Robin, or Batman Forever. Whichever one the Flying Graysons were. Batman Forever. When they made Batman Forever. No, Batman and Robin. Yeah. Whichever this third one was. When they introduced Robin for the first time. He was the other Flying Grayson. And then because he was Chris What's-His-Face's stunt double for the rest of the movie. So that's why there's two. He has a brother in that movie because they said, yeah, sure, Mitch Gaylord, just be the other Flying Grayson. So that's kind of funny. Little bit of trivia for you kids. Which one came first? Batman Forever is... That's the third one. Batman Forever is the third one. And don't send me corrections. I'll have it figured out by then. Cowboys. We got a 2-page spread on Cowboys. That's kind of fun. Today's Cowboys combine tradition with technology. This is fascinating. Articles like this absolutely do fascinate me. You know, and obviously this is 30 years old, but just these old world, there's not a lot of really old world professions. And this absolutely is one. You know, that in the modern day, how are you doing it? What are you using to do differently? You know, how are they using modern techniques? I will say, for the faint of heart, there is a photo of someone branding a cow, like in real time. Like that's a little gruesome, you know. And you know, not to get too, you know, whatever about it. But yeah, it's crazy. They got a picture of a cow. You see the smoke coming off the flesh of the cow. That's wild. Anyway, it's a 3-page spread. There you go. That's pretty neat. And then you get you go to the magazine, or the poster in the middle, which is pretty great. We got Space Chase. That's our story. Chuckles floating helplessly through space. Voltar's involved. And Falcon's involved too. We got another ad for the G.I. Joe magazine. 4 big issues, even though there's only one left. And you can get your G.I. Joe sunglasses, just like last time. Here we go. Then we get a little 2-page spread on Surf and Safari by Tish Hamilton. And we get a little breakdown of surfboards. I mean, surfing, like 80s surf culture had been around for a while, but 80s was the era where like the world discovered surfing. It really was. Who was the first surfer? No one knows for sure, but it's clear that the sport began some 1,800 years ago when the Polynesians paddled surfboards to the Hawaiian Islands. That's wild. The Hawaiians surfed on wooden boards with round ends that weighed up to 100 pounds. The long and narrow boards were made of wee wood. Needless to say, boards today are considerably lighter, etc. Talk about surfing pro, surfing fashion. Surf fashion, that's what it was in the 80s, man. Surf fashion took over. So you were wearing surf fashion even if you lived in like Chicago. Like if you lived in the Midwest, you were rocking some surf fashion. And here's some surfing lingo. Let's see if you guys know what this is. Anglin, which is sliding across the face of a wave. Of course, if you ate it, it means you're wiped out pretty badly. A grommet is a young surfer. Gnarly is challenging but beatable. If you're hot dogging, of course, you're showing off. Shooting the curl is riding the wave right where it's forming a tube, which also is tubular. If you're stoked, the totally awesome feeling you get when you shoot the curl. Surfing safari is a trip where you hunt for big waves. Yeah, you know what? I take that back. The Beach Boys made surf culture back in the 60s. I feel like it disappeared for 10 years, and then it came back in the 80s. But yeah, totally. It was total surf. Beach Boys made it big. Sorry about that. Yeah, these are great. You know what's really funny? Nah. Let's see. Still use the word gnarly. Still use ate it. We still use radical. Still use stoked. Absolutely still use stoked. Don't use tubular all that often, but used to totally use tubular. We still use hot dogging. Yeah, that's so funny. There's a lot of these we still use. Every kid's dream. We got a story about life as a major league bat boy. Some lucky kids make the major leagues before they finish high school, but their big league jobs include doing laundry, picking up bats, and polishing shoes. Jeff Parker, 18, out of Yorba Linda, California. He's been the bat boy for the Angels for 3 years. So he was a bat boy when he was 15 years old. Wow, that's great. It's not all fun and glamour, however. Jeff sure has become friends with several players, including his favorite player, third baseman Jack Howell. And he shared some funny times on the field. Like that time shortstop Dickie Schofield couldn't get the donut off his bat. Before road trips, the Bat Boys pack all of the team's equipment and uniforms and load them onto the bus at the airport. Or to the airport, rather. When the team returns, the Bat Boys are waiting to unload and put away the bats, uniforms. They're basically indentured servants. I don't know how much Jeff was getting paid at 15 years old, but good for him. That's quite exciting. Have you guys ever been a Bat Boy for like a major league? Because I know they would do them as charity stuff. Like my friend Danny growing up, I remember he was Bat Boy for a day for the White Sox. I remember seeing pictures of it. Got an ad for Archie and his search for the Fruitosaurus. So more Archie fruit snack inspired cartoons. Code breakers lost on a mountain with a banana. Below are some adventurous situations Joe team members might find themselves in a wildly spinning plane aboard a ship in a storm. So choose 2 pieces of equipment from the list. Oh, okay, so the earth rushes up, the clouds surround you. What will you do? You're falling in a biplane. What will you do? And you have 2 things. You need a flying lessons. And I have no idea. A ferocious mouth open. The shark is attacking. What do you need? You need swim fins and a knife to stab that shark right in the eye. 10,000 feet up, snowbound in the Alps. Will you survive? What do you need? You need a tent and mittens, I'm going to say, and a knife to stab that Sherpa in the eye. All right, Transformers, join the battle of the century, an exclusive offer here. Join the Autobots in their struggle against the Decepticons with these incredible warriors from Cybertron. Each one, so this is a Transformers mail away like they would do with the Joes. So like the mail away direct figures, so it sounds like surplus stuff. They've got Wheeljack, who is an all-timer, Sunstreaker, all-timer, Thundercracker, all-timer, Reflector, not an all-timer. He was the camera. I wouldn't say all-timer Reflector. You don't get that status. But he did break off into 3 things, though. That's pretty cool. I forgot about that. Yeah, he was like 3 robots in one. That is pretty neat. I take that back. I would totally get a Reflector. That's awesome. So yeah, so you could get these 4. It says it's not sold in any store. I wonder if it's like all together. And it says, attach your check or money order. Oh, it looks like I can't see. Print is too small. Gold for the Joes. In honor of the upcoming Summer Olympic Games, the Joe team got together and held a few games of their own. Can you figure out the code below to reveal the G.I. Joe team? So it's who would run these things. So the 100-meter dash, and it starts with an L and an I. So it's got to be Lightfoot, right? The marathon, there's three words with 3 letters each. Who would that be? Marathon. Oh, hit and run. Of course. I was mentioning. Discus. They have discus as Charbroil. Why would Charbroil throw the discus? Archery is Falcon. That doesn't make any sense. The kayak is Chuckles. Doesn't make any sense. Some of these don't make sense, but you can figure them out using the code because there's like an ABC code. So you would plug and play and all that stuff. Judo, of course, that's Budo. That actually makes sense. Who do the vault and gymnastics? Crazy Legs. I guess maybe you give that to him. And swimming for the breaststroke. Starts with an M. Muskrat. See, none of these make sense. This is just filling in Joe names. Take it all back. River rafting guide at the very end. We talk about going river rafting. Never gone river rafting. Been on rivers, but never really river rafting. This is with Marty McDonnell. He's been a river raft guide for 15 years. So since 1973. Oh, man, he's seen some stuff, man. He has helped people hide some drugs, bury some bodies, and hide cartel operatives. He's out of the Sierra Mac River in Sonora, California. And then we get an actual ad for Big Top Pee-wee at the end. And an ad for the New Adventures of Pippi Longstocking. Starring Tammy Aaron as Pippi. So come for the G.I. Joe and stay for the Pippi Longstocking. That's what we always say here at Joe on Joe. So now let's dig into Space Chase. Chuckles floats helplessly in space. Can the Joes save him? Well, buddy, welcome to the big, wide, wonderful world of outer space, Gung Ho said to his partner, Shockwave. That's Earth, about 100 miles behind us. Speaking of Shockwave, Shockwave was sitting in the seat behind Gung Ho. He looked out an observation window of the mini space shuttle, otherwise known as the MSS. We talked about this last time. The two G.I. Joes had come to outer space to follow Voltar and find out what he was doing in orbit. I don't get it, Shockwave said. How did Voltar get an MSS in the first place? I thought this little baby was super secret army vehicle. And when Cobra tried to grab it a few months ago, we got it back. Well, we got the MSS back, all right, Gung Ho said. But Cobra got the plans. Then Destro stole them from Cobra, and now he's built an MSS that's identical to the one we're piloting. We got word just in time that Voltar was in the MSS and on the move. But we don't know where he's headed. This is convoluted. Just then, a calm voice came through Gung Ho's headset. It was Lieutenant Falcon, who was piloting a second MSS right behind Gung Ho. Prepare for battle, Lieutenant Falcon said. I've spotted Voltar on radar, but remember the drill, you guys. Let them know we're here, but no direct hits, no casualties, no serious damage to their MSS. Drink every time you hear MSS. It seems like a waste of good ammo, sighed Shockwave into his radio. Why can't we blast those snakes into space dust? I've got my reason, Lieutenant Falcon said mysteriously before signing off. Suddenly, a new voice, talking quietly and quickly, came on the Joe's team radio. Falcon, I hope you can hear me because I'm not going to get a second chance. Shockwave spoke up first, his voice as surprised as his face. Chuckles, is that you? Where in the Milky Way are you? I'm on board with Voltar, Chuckles said, speaking in a loud whisper. Where else would a good undercover infiltrator be? Then Lieutenant Falcon cut in. Chuckles, this is Falcon. Have you found out Voltar's destination? Space Station Alpha, said Chuckles. Voltar knows it's unmanned, and its automatic defense system won't fire on an approaching American aircraft. Since his mini space shuttle is identical to yours down to the last rivet, it will have no trouble docking. After that, Voltar plans to reprogram the artillery on Alpha to fire back at Earth. Well, what's your security status? Asked Falcon. I'm in no danger, Falcon. These Iron Grenadier brozos think I'm just one of the boys, said Chuckles with a small laugh. See you at Space Station Alpha, but remember, you've got to get there first. Count on it, Gung Ho barked into his radio. So he didn't want to fire on that because he knew Chuckles was on board. Why didn't he just tell them Chuckles is on board? Chuckles turned off his secret radio. He could feel the missiles exploding around the space shuttle, but he knew this wasn't a real battle. The Joes were only pretending. The real battle would be waiting for Voltar when he got to the space station. Suddenly, a quick boot in his side and a piercing pain snapped Chuckles out of his thoughts. He looked up right into the evil eyes of Voltar, the army commander who took orders only from Destro, when he took orders at all. Voltar picked up Chuckles with one hand and ripped off his secret radio with the other. He smashed the radio in his fist. Haven't you ever heard of the on-off switch? Chuckles joked, looking at the broken radio. Very funny. Let's see if you have let's see if you have any talent as a yo-yo, Voltar said with a cruel smile. That doesn't make any sense. Voltar ordered his Iron Grenadier pilot to stop and all escape maneuvers and slow down the MSS. It was an action that confused the Joes, who watched from their own spacecraft. Then Voltar's hideous plan began to unfold. The hatch is opening, Gung Ho said. It looked like they're going to jettison something from the ship. In the distance, a small silver figure came floating out the blackness of space. It was attached to Voltar's MSS by just a thin cord. Gung Ho watched through the high-powered holographic binoculars. And then he said angrily, "Well, that's Chuckles. He's in a spacesuit with a life-support umbilical back to the ship." The Joe team watched in horror as the thin cord sending oxygen to Chuckles was released. Chuckles' weightless body began to rotate and float away into space. Then the enemy took off. The Joes didn't hesitate for a second. Even though Voltar was getting away, they had to rescue Chuckles. It was going to be tricky. If they flew too fast, they might pass him, and worse, burn him in the exhaust from their rockets. But if they flew too slowly, Chuckles would run out of breath, out of time, and out of luck. The two Joe mini space shuttles moved through space like spiders on a lake. Spiders on a lake. Starting, stopping, quick, careful stops. Finally, Falcon moved right under Chuckles and extended a long, stiff rescue pole. "Grab on, soldier," Falcon said. But he knew Chuckles couldn't hear him. He could only hope that Chuckles was still breathing. Suddenly, the motionless man in the spacesuit swung his arm around and took hold of the pole. In seconds, Chuckles was safe and inside Falcon's MSS. "Are the snakes still heading for Space Station Alpha?" Falcon said. "Yes," Chuckles said. "And with their head start, they'll have time to get there, reprogram their weapons, and watch a good movie before we even show up." "Not if we take a shortcut," Shockwave said into his radio. He was checking his radar screens. "I mean, we could go through the Gallison asteroid belt. It's the only way to beat Voltar and save the space station." "Hold it," Chuckles said. "Isn't that what they call the Bermuda Triangle of asteroid belts? You know, lots of people sail in, but nobody comes out alive. How are we going to get through that?" "Well, we could blast through with lasers," Gung Ho radioed back. "Oh, we could use anti-magnetic force field," Falcon said. "Or we could just do it with an off-tackle play using blocking guards," Shockwave said into his radio with a laugh. "This is no time for fun or football games," Lieutenant Falcon said sharply. But then Shockwave showed the team leader what he had in mind. He told Gung Ho to aim their MSS straight for the dangerous floating mass of asteroids. Then they bumped one of the giant rocks of the Garrison asteroid belt. The rock moved aside, opening up a small path for Falcon. Gung Ho and Shockwave repeated the maneuver again and again. Each time they bumped into an asteroid, it sent jarring shockwaves through their ship, but they managed to clear the way for Falcon's MSS. Falcon made it through unharmed. "Gung Ho, what's your damage assessment?" Lieutenant Falcon asked his business-as-usual voice as he wiped sweat from his forehead. "We're still flying," Gung Ho said, "but we're limping, Falcon. In fact, I don't think we can make it back to Earth. You'd better hustle it over to the space station before Voltar arrives." Falcon fired his rockets and took off for the Space Station Alpha. When he got there, he docked on the lunar side and entered the airlock, but he couldn't see the other side of the space station. Had Voltar already docked? Would he be inside, waiting for the Joes when they arrived? When the MSS carrying Voltar and his Iron Grenadiers entered the gravitation lock of Space Station Alpha, Voltar looked around. Then he ordered his men to step forward. "The space station is unmanned," he said. "It's an easier target than I had hoped." "I claim the space station for our leader, Destro," Voltar shouted. You can claim it for Pee Wee Herman." "Ha! If you want to, pal," said Lieutenant Falcon through the space station speaker system. "But you're our prisoners. Now throw down your guns and start pleading for mercy." Right then, Gung Ho appeared out of nowhere. He had a laser rifle in his hands trained right at Voltar. seeing that the Iron Grenadiers started dropping their hardware. Voltar suddenly laughed. I know the only way you GI germs could have gotten here so fast. You left your undercover agent to die in space, he said, his voice filled with victory. But Voltar's victory laugh ended when Chuckles stepped out from behind a corner. Wrong, Mouse Brain, he laughed back. Well, hate to win and run, but we've got to get back to Earth, said Lieutenant Falcon. Let's get these space shuttles out of here. What? You can't just leave us here on this deserted space station, Voltar said. Isn't that un-American? You have 3 MSS vehicles. Don't be greedy. Give us one. Well, he's right, Lieutenant, said Gung Ho. What do you say we give him my ship? Voltar smiled with relief. Well, that's more like it, he said. Gung Ho's smile was even bigger. The only thing is, my ship is leaking fuel. The radio's down. The steering is shot. The navigation radar is a joke. And I ate all the chocolate chip cookies on board, said the Marine. In other words, happy landing, sport, said Chuckles, giving Voltar a slap on the back. Wherever you end up. That was an unexpected ending, guys. I was not ready for G.I. Joe leaving Voltar to die in space. I wasn't ready for G.I. Joe possibly just leaving Voltar on the space station, which was the whole reason they wanted to beat him there in the first place. Why aren't they taking him into custody? That is a crazy ending. I can't approve of it. I don't like it. That is wild. That is Megan Stein and R.L. Stein, or H. Williams Stein, I believe is R.L. Stein. That is the Steins realizing they only had 200 words left to wrap this story up, and they had no way to end this. That's crazy. Also, using the one shuttle as a pinball move, also crazy. That shuttle would have blown up. There's a lot of craziness going on here. But the craziest thing is the Joes being like, yeah, just die in space. Or we can leave you on the space shuttle, which is the whole reason we were going to beat you here. How about we put you in handcuffs? We scuttle one of those space shuttles in space, and we take 2 space shuttles back. How about that one? How about that? You come as a prisoner. Any hoots. Always exciting here at the G.I. Joe magazine that we cover on Joe on Joe. I hope everyone enjoyed it. We'll see you next week for the final issue of G.I. Joe the magazine. And now you Joe, and Joeing is half the battle.